A political debate on TikTok. A couple Gen Z debate artists get into it on pro-life versus pro-choice. Let's get into it. All right, guys, what's up? Here we are. Today, we've got a political debate. A little bit different than normal. It's not like a jubilee, but it's a TikTok reaction, and I actually think it's valid. I've watched a little bit of the video, and it passed my checks, I suppose, as to what's interesting and what's worth talking about. I wanted to talk about it. A little intro first. It's a TikTok debate between Dean Withers and Parker, who are very large liberal political commentators on the left. I disagree with their ideology, obviously. I used to be on the left, but as I've started to pay taxes and have an actual financial interest in this country, and started to realize that what policies enacted impacts my wallet, my ideology has changed a great bit, a great deal. In addition to that, I think Dean is a terrible person. I've been in this box before, and he just constantly talks over you. What he does to Hayden in this video is nothing compared to what I experienced when I was on his shit. It was just constant talking over, constant muting, constant. It was completely disrespectful, and it was an extension of actually something else that's occurring in my life, which I'm not going to get into. But I just think he's a terrible human, and he does not deserve a platform. And on top of that, he is really bad politically, ideologically. I think his ideology would result in the dissolution of this country within years, maybe a couple decades, if we were to spend money the way they want to and introduce the ideology that they want to. I think it would destroy a lot of values in this country. Anyway, let's go ahead. I don't know who Hayden Rodea is. This is the first time I am hearing of him. So we're going to watch and see, and I'll provide my commentary on each of these guys and see where we stand. It's hard, I can imagine, for a guy like this age, kind of young, probably early 20s, if that, maybe a teenager, to gain momentum on the conservative side, especially on TikTok. That's kind of where the liberals would win, okay? So anyway, let's get into this.
Yeah, I voted for Trump.
Why so?
Largely due to pro-life policies, yeah, so I'm pro-life.
That's because liberals tend to lean younger because they don't pay taxes yet and they don't have an idea of a lot of things. And conservatives tend to be older on average.
He's generally going to be more favorable towards pro-life.
And obviously TikTok users are younger on average as well.
Policies compared to Harris, so.
Oh, this will be fun. This will be fun.
Notice how he's already talking under him, not giving him the respect as a debater at all, just talking about his gifts and stuff, which I'm sure you have to do as a TikTok streamer and shout them out in order to keep making money, but just not a W-Mans at all. Dean sucks, dude. He's not respectful. He sucks to, he's just a tyrant on his stream. That's how he gets a lot of followers, because he's good at that format when he's controlling the conversation. If not, then he gets destroyed in pretty much every debate.
I would have run this one. Amanda, thank you for the $6 on PayPal. Saying
it's funny because back, they used to say that Trump was like, if you voted for Trump, then you were a racist or whatever. And I'm not a Trumpist whatsoever, but I don't really support Trump. I see eye to eye on certain ideology. On certain ideological items with him, with his policies, and with his, with his overall, with his party line, right, and with his platform. But there are a lot of things that he's done, especially pardoning the J6 guys, which I disagree with vehemently, and I think that he probably is a little bit racist, right? I mean, let's be real. But anyway, who cares? That's not important. It's about the policies he's going to enact. But if you say Trump is a racist, right, for voting for him, or you're a racist if you vote for Trump, then what about Amanda here? Is she a misandrist for donating to Dean? I'm kidding.
Cody needs a job. So real. Show some love to Amanda. So if you're pro-life, it means you think that elective abortions are wrong.
Yes.
Name every single reason why an elective lethal abortion is morally wrong.
Why an elective abortion is wrong?
Name every reason.
It's the unjustified taking of human life.
Phenomenal. Okay. And when you say that it's the unjust termination...
Fair, right? If you believe... Now, my stance on this is really in the gray area. If you believe that that's human life, then yeah, I mean, I see why you think that's murder. I don't really have a strong opinion on abortion. I do think that, it's tough, man. I think in certain cases, abortion should be legal, like in the case of rape. And in certain cases, maybe it shouldn't. I don't really know, right? I do think a lot of the times when women say, my body, my choice, I think that comes from a place of entitlement. I don't believe that obviously, yes, your body, your choice, yes, but like, I don't think when it comes to abortion, right, if you have chosen to get pregnant and change your mind or recklessly had sex, unprotected sex all over the place, and you ended up getting pregnant, you shouldn't just be entitled to an abortion, right? I think then the salience of the argument shifts. The more salient argument becomes whether or not this is a human life and whether or not it should be aborted based on that, not about agency of women over their own bodies, because you had agency over your own body when you decided to have unprotected sex and get pregnant. You could have prevented that. In the case of rape, it's very different. Of course, I believe that in the case of rape, abortion should be legal, with no exceptions. I think it should always be legal if somebody's raped, or in the case of like incest with a young female, or whatever horrible concoctions are out there, right? The talking points are out there; they exist. But in those instances, yes, I think abortion should be legal. A lot of conservatives will say they shouldn't be, because at that point that heinous act already happened, and why not at least let the baby be born? I don't prescribe to that. I think that at that point you should allow the woman to have an abortion, because it's not fair to make that woman carry the baby to term. But in the case of willing unprotected sex, these are thoughts and decisions that you could have made in advance, and it doesn't need to be that abortion is the way out of a terrible decision that a woman made. I don't think that that's how we should run society, and I also think that abortion downstream, in a downstream way, has a downstream impact on promiscuity, the destruction of the family unit. If you allow promiscuous behavior, it'll increase infidelity. It'll increase, all these things happen where the destruction of the family unit is more pronounced and kind of enhanced. That's going to hurt the country in the long run. If you don't have families, that's going to destroy the culture. It's really going to hurt the country. So I think that in that way, allowing abortion as like a safe, as a fallback for the consequences of, raging promiscuity is not good. I don't think it should be accessible in that regard. That's my personal opinion. But anyway, let's keep going. Yeah, I don't think that, just hoeing around and then trying to get an abortion is the way. That's not my body, my choice. That was your body, your choice prior to you making those decisions.
Of human life, and that's wrong. What you are entailing would be a rights violation. So let me ask you this question. What gives the life of the fetus moral value?
The fact that it is a living human organism.
Okay, so now you've made your principle clear. If one is a living human organism, they get...
And if you believe that, then you know what I mean? Okay. I don't know, right? I don't think, obviously to me, like an embryo or a quote-unquote zygote, like I don't think that holds the same value as like a 2-year-old kid, right? Like, I don't know.
It's sufficient moral value.
I don't know. I want to say value, but that's not the same, right? It's not the same thing. Like, it's obviously, you can argue it's a human life, but that's why I kind of stay out of that side of things.
To be granted the right to life, and when you unjustly kill them, it is murder. So let me ask you this question. Okay? Wait, actually, I want to go in a different direction. Do you think that all innocent human life has an identical amount of value?
What does that really have anything to do with it, right? Like, where's he even going with that? We're going to see where he's going, but like, what do you mean they all have, like, are they all identical? Like, what does that have to do with the right to live, right? The amount of value, like, yeah, it might correlate to like how much money you make or something like that, but like it shouldn't be, the right to live should be ubiquitous for everybody, universal.
I would say that all innocent human organisms have a right not to be murdered.
Yes, but do they all have the identical amount of moral value? For instance, I'm as morally valuable as you are morally valuable, as a fetus is morally valuable.
Such a terrible question. What does that have to do with having the right to live? Like, it's ridiculous to base the right to live on somebody's subjective moral value. Like, based on your moral value, right? You might kill some people that I won't kill, or I might kill some people that you don't want to kill. And you're you know what I mean? That's not the way we have these conversations. It's just a ridiculous framework.
Well, when you're talking about value, that would be a different thing from a right to live. We agree on that.
The value.
I agree with him on that. I've actually seen, like, yes, I totally agree with him on that. Again, like I said, this is not the first time I'm seeing this part. I probably watched up to about 7 minutes of this video just as a preview. But yeah, exactly. It's not the same thing.
That grants the right to life. If something isn't morally valuable, it's not going to have the right to life.
Sure, then I would be willing to say.
What do you mean by that? If something isn't morally valuable, it's not going to have the right to life. If something isn't morally valuable to you subjectively, right? Because everybody has different morals and different codes of ethics. I don't believe in objective morality. I think morality is subjective. Different religious believe in different things. Most people have some shared values, yes, but there's a lot of people don't. Some people are like, look out for me and myself. I came up in this tough neighborhood, this tough environment. I'm gonna take from you, and I gotta feed my kid, boy. I don't care. And some people are much more morally, strong. They just don't want to, even if they're struggling, they're not gonna like steal or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Morals are not objective. Morals are very subjective. So based on your subjective morality, I'm supposed to allow you to decide what's allowed to live and what's not? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous framework.
Say that a born human being has.
It comes from entitlement. That's what the left has, a lot of entitlement. And this is exhibited in all of their stances. It's all about moral high ground. The way I view things is correct. The way you view things is wrong. And if you disagree with them, you're just amoral, according to them, without any justification.
As equal value to a preborn human being, if we're talking about value being what we're using to define as having a right not to be murdered.
Perfect. So here's my question. There's a pew-pew to your head and 2 buttons in front of you. Button number 1 unalives 10 cryogenically frozen human zygotes that are biologically alive and are human. Button number 2 unalives 1.
They just completely ignore the life of the woman. What the woman's life? What do you mean the woman's life? Like, what about the woman, though? Did she not have agency when she was having unprotected sex? When she got pregnant irresponsibly, did she not have agency then? Now, of course, again, in the case of rape, it's different. We're having a different conversation. But it's such an entitled view. My body, my choice. I should be able to do whatever I want without any sort of consequence. And if it's available, then, screw that zygote, screw that embryo. Who cares? Entitlement, man. That's entitlement.
Newborn.
And also, his look.
Which button are you pressing?
Which button are you pressing? This, insane hypothetical, extreme, exaggerated hypothetical is such a joke. Why would you even have to go there? It's because your point is ass. You have no stance. And you know what I mean? You're just an idiot, Dean. You have no moral grounds for making your stance. So you want to draw this insane hypothetical, which would never happen in real life. And then you want to use that point, kind of apply an extension of the slippery slope fallacy, and say, oh, well, so then abortion in the real world shouldn't be legal, or should be legal as well. Stupid. It's ridiculous.
Why do I have to press one of the buttons?
Because if you don't press either of the buttons, everyone dies. 10 zygotes, 1 newborn, and you. You have to press.
Okay, just want to make sure I got the question correct. Is it okay if I repeat it back to you?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you're saying that I have to push one of 2 buttons. There's no other option. If I don't push any of the buttons, then everyone dies. And the option is I push either button A, in which case 10 frozen embryos, for example, those at an IVF clinic would die. And if I push button B, then it sounds like a newborn human would die. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so let's say that I was to say that I pushed the button that would ultimately result in the death of the newborn human being, which, if I'm trying to preserve the maximum amount of living human organisms, would be the route that I would want to take, right? Let's say that I choose to do that. Can you tell me how that would then justify abortion?
Jesus Christ.
Can you
Fair question. Fair question by Hayden. How would that then justify abortion? Right? And he ended up picking, he let Dean's point backfire, right? Because he's like, I'm going to pick the 10 embryos over the human newborn. And Dean's going to ridicule him for that, right? That's the next step these people go to. I actually have not seen past this. Actually, I think I clicked earlier when I previewed. But that's the next point that these people go to. Oh, ha, 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 look at you. Look at your morals. They suck. Dude, fuck you, lib. Holy shit. Come on, bro.
tell me how that would then justify abortion?
You don't get to choose my morals for me, nor do you get to choose this guy's. I don't know that I agree with the guy. But you asserting your moral high ground and being like, oh, I'm a big tough lib, and, we kill embryos over here. Fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Abortion?
Why'd you say if, as if that isn't the logical?
Well, at first I said if, and then I also said that I'm taking that position, and then I asked how that would justify abortion.
So, Hayden, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
We haven't gotten around to my justification
Of course you haven't gotten there yet. You don't have a fucking point, idiot.
insofar as why I think that
You'll never fucking get there.
elective lethal abortions prior to a given point are morally permissible. The reason why I asked you this question is to demonstrate an absurdity. And in fact, the absurdity in this case would be that you'd value 10 cryogenically frozen unicellular organisms over a newborn.
The fact that I would value 10 living human organisms over one living human organism?
Yes. When
You see how they're trying to attack him for his sense of morals, his ethics, his values?
Yeah, because they're single cell organisms.
Just a follow-up question. A follow-up question on that. When you say
ask a follow-up question.
well, just hang on. When you said that it was absurd, by what standard are you judging it to be absurd?
Yeah, we'd be judging it to be absurd based upon like my preferences.
Okay, but my preferences differ from yours. So who's right?
If don't interrupt me, I'll describe it to you. You have to be able to let me speak. Are you okay with having a productive?
Sure, but I would like the chance to respond because it seems like you just want to not give me a chance to respond after asking questions. Okay.
You don't have a chance to respond midway through my sentence.
Look at the mute. Did Hayden cut him off? Maybe, actually. He probably, during the preference thing, maybe he did. But it was important to highlight that you have different preferences and different morals. But this tyrannical shit, and he goes on a tangent here. Dean will hear talk about not cutting each other off for like a whole 2 minutes because he's too fucking stupid to have a point. He doesn't have a point, so he'd rather just talk about this and make the argument something completely different. It's like arguing with your girlfriend, man. Arguing with Dean is like arguing with your girlfriend. Literally. You know what I mean? You're in an argument, you're talking about something, and then boom, she's wrong, so she goes to fucking over here. The planet Jupiter. You know what I mean? Now we're talking about something else, and you're trying to reel it back in, and 7 weeks ago. You know what I mean? That's Dean.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, just one question. It looks like that's what I was going to ask.
Feel free to me. I don't want to say anything until you're.
No, I just saw I was muted, and I had not joined someone else's live before, so I wasn't sure how to unmute, but then it popped up on the screen, so I was just going to ask about that.
I invited you out of mute. So is it fair for me to say that you can have a chance to respond once I'm done speaking, but you will not have a chance to respond in the middle of my sentence?
Sure, but just a follow-up on that.
Okay.
If I say that...
You don't get a follow-up, though, because remember,
I'm not asking a question. I'm just asking...
No,
oh my goodness.
You don't get a follow-up.
He's such a piece of shit, bro. Fuck you, Dean. Fuck you, Dean.
Because I was in the middle of my
sentence. And I'm muted.
To your last follow-up. In order for us to have a productive conversation, we both have to be able to have a chance to speak. I noticed the biggest issue with a lot of people that come up here and debate, a lot of people that debate in general, this is true of the right, as it's true of a lot of people on the left, right, is trying to remove
I'm
the chance
muted still.
a response, right? I feel as if you're trying to
Still
avoid
muted.
an actual conversation because you don't want me to address what you say.
You've gone on a fucking 15-second aside about him cutting you off once, while you cut him off repeatedly and mute him. Like, you are such a baby, dude. You fucking puss. I hate you. You don't belong in politics. You really don't. You're a crybaby, and you're wrong, and you're mostly a bitch.
So I'm going to address what you say one by one, and you
Muted.
respond, and then ask me new questions one by one. I can do the same thing to you. That's how you have a productive
Still
conversation.
muted.
I hate that
We need Dean to tell us how to have a productive conversation, guys. This idiot who can't fucking take other people having opinions. He has to mute them when they have opinions. That idiot is telling us about having a productive conversation. What a fucking idiot. You fucking joke.
I have to teach this to people. Okay.
Just-
so the last thing you asked me is how is it absurd, right? Or what
This is where I stopped watching it earlier because I wanted to be able to blind react, so I'll blind react to the rest of this.
determines absurdity? I told you that I'm indexing the absurdity to my preferences. You then told me, well, what if you have different preferences? Who's right and who's wrong? So in that situation, there's going to be no objective arbiter of whose preferences mean more.
And that's why we have a democracy. And that's why you vote. That's why you vote for things. Because at the end of the day, it's like sports, right? At the end of the day, you got to win your assignment. In football and basketball, right? Football, for example, you can draw up all the plays in the world. If one of your plays involves, somebody running a dig route and getting inside the corner, beating him inside, and the corner maintains inside leverages and blows up the route, if he maintains inside leverage and blows up the route, he wins, and your play is fucked. So at the end of the day, somebody's got to win the assignment. It's the same thing in politics. When you have an ideological difference, somewhere along the line, there's a difference of opinion. And so it's a matter of who wins the assignment, who wins the opinion. That's why you vote.
So you're right.
But and there are people on the right like this, but people on the left really don't understand that. Oh my God, my morals are being attacked. The other guys won. Oh, my pussy hurts.
That would be a dead-end position.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's like, oh, I deserve these rights. I'm so entitled. I deserve to be fed for free by the government, guys. I deserve housing for free. Ravi has to pay for my housing, or else I'm being oppressed. Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Fuck!
As it didn't entail a contradiction, right? So here's the next step, okay? And I wanted to take it in this route. Let's see here. So you think that all human organisms deserve the exact same amount of moral value and are all deserving of a similar human life. And I want to see how far you're willing to take this to see if it's truly the human life that you value or if there's other traits that you value that you're just not making clear. If there was a human zygote that were to remain a human zygote for the rest of its existence and not grow into anything more, not have any potential or capacity for a higher level...
That's not what happens, though. Like, what are you talking about, man? If there was a newborn baby that was just going to crawl around for the rest of its life, so you'd kill that too? What does it fucking matter? The reality is that it does grow up. You're making all these ridiculous hypotheticals. And the reason you go there is because you don't have a point. You don't have a leg to stand on. These are terrible talking points for pro-choice. Terrible, I'm telling you. There's not really a salient, there's not a noteworthy argument, right, against somebody saying that they believe that a zygote or an embryo is a human life and it deserves to live. You can't argue against that. It's like trying to disprove the existence of God, right? You can't really do that. You can say that you think God doesn't exist. You can say that an embryo is not a life form to you, but you can't tell this guy what to think, right? This guy over here who says that that is a life form, you can't really tell him that it's not, because it kind of is. It's a gray area. Hence, we vote.
Level of rationale, etc. Would you value it the same as you value yourself?
Hence democracy.
Or me, or Parker, or anyone else?
Yes.
Okay. Now please tell me why you should value a unicellular organism that will remain a unicellular organism insofar as determining that it's murder as long as it's a part of our species. Meanwhile, you don't think you're doing anything wrong when you brush your teeth and kill 400 trillion life forms that are of a similar size, standard, and growth potential as that unicellular organism.
Sure, so when I brush my teeth, I'm not killing any living human organisms. And if you reject the standard that all living human organisms are equally valuable and equally have a right not to be murdered, then I would argue you end up with some repugnant consequences. Now, what the problem with your line of questioning here is that you still haven't established an absolute standard of rationality by which you're going to judge my answers or yours outside of your personal preference. And if your personal preference is the only standard you're judging my...
Facts, well said. And also, the argument for killing those bacteria, part of it is also self-preservation, right? Like, you have to. It's a necessary evil. Like, for me, I don't like, I was raised Hindu, and I really have a lot of belief in a lot of Hindu traditional beliefs. And so I'm a pacifist. I don't kill. Like, if I can help it, I don't kill any living beings. But, you know, when there's a flea infestation, a fruit fly infestation in my shower sometimes or whatever, right? I lived in a shitty fucking New York apartment. That happened all the time. I gotta kill those, because otherwise it's gonna grow into a worse problem. I gotta call the exterminator, whatever, right? You have to. But, you know, when it's convenient to not kill something, don't. You know, that's kind of how I live, right? So, I mean, yeah, like that's also another way to look at what they just talked about, completely ancillary to this topic.
Answers by, then all I have to do is judge your answers by my personal preference, and there is no ultimate arbiter, is there?
So, Hayden, as our...
Facts. Besides democracy, that's why you vote. That's why we have democracy.
Already described, when we want to use our preferences to determine what's absurd and what's not absurd, you're right, and that's why I classify that as a dead end. However, the absolute standard for rationale would just be these three consequential classical laws of logic, and we typically judge the internal validity of an argument based upon an internal contradiction given another belief in which you hold to be true. However, to go ahead and finish off what I was originally saying to you,
essentially what he's saying is that it's going to end up violating your own intuitions by the use of like some sort of consistency test.
Okay, just hang on. One question there.
So, okay, well, where's the consistency test? And if your consistency test is some crazy, outlandish hypothetical, then it doesn't hold any weight. That's not valid.
If I allow you to follow... Oh my goodness, I'm muted again?
We agreed that in order for us to have a fair conversation, we both have to be able to finish speaking. I allowed you to do that.
I was just trying to clarify, yeah.
He's such a prick, dude.
That was my bad for cutting him off.
Oh, no, you're good, Parker. I think he's
still muted.
He wasn't, it's not like this guy is going crazy. Like, this Hayden kid is not, like, going crazy, cutting him off every single time. Like, he's just trying to make a point. This guy's losing the argument very clearly, and he's being a fucking baby. Fuck him.
is a way to respond. So anyways, to go back to what I was saying, so you told me that you would value a unicellular organism that had no growth potential and would remain a unicellular organism for the rest of its existence as long as it's a part of our species. So tell me why similar genome, in the sense of the structure of our DNA, or I guess similar enough for biologists to classify as a part of your same species, is morally valuable. I find that to be insane, and I'd ask you for your reasons why.
So just to clarify the question again, so the reasoning why I would value a living human organism at the zygote stage, so the one-cell stage, versus other forms of one-cellular life?
That is the only stage it will exist in ever.
Yes, and you're asking me to compare that to the value of something that is also one cell but doesn't have unique human DNA, so something like a horse at the zygote stage or something like that?
Actually, no. The question that I'm asking you is why is DNA that is sufficiently similar to yourself to be categorized as a Homo sapien sapien grant moral value?
Because it's made in the image of God.
There we go.
And that's where he loses me. I don't think, there's a separation of church and state. We live in a secular country. Otherwise, people, there will be one specific sect of Christianity running everything. We saw the guy on the Mehdi Hassan Jubilee video. He was talking about how, like, Catholics should have an autocracy. And, you know what I mean? There are people who are absolutely crazy. You can't have religion in the conversation. But it's fine. If that's his belief, then vote that way, I would say to Hayden, right? If it's that. If you think, I think there are other ways he could have gone with that, and instead of saying in the image of God, I think he could have said, like, why is it valuable because it's a human life? I would say it's valuable if it's any life, And my argument is that where it's convenient, because he would say, oh, well, you brush your teeth, you kill all these bacteria. I would say where it's convenient, you don't kill them. And where you can help it for self-preservation. But, you can't just outlaw... I mean, again, I'm in a gray area on abortion, but if I were to make the case for abortion to be illegal, I would say that because the women already had a choice prior to getting pregnant, there's no reason for abortion to then be legal, and we sacrifice all these potential human lives. If I believe that was the case, right? If I believe that a zygote was a human life and as valuable as a human life, which I don't know. I'm not sold. Jury's out on that. But if that was the stance I was taking, that's how I would make that argument. Because you already, there are other ways to go about not getting pregnant or not having to birth a child other than abortion. You can prevent that from happening to begin with through your own choices and decisions and responsibility. We don't need to kill any living beings. And we can get the same result. But if you want to just carelessly, frivolously share your body with everybody, and you think that I'm going to support that as a United States citizen, and I think that's, you think I'm gonna say that that's like a moral and okay thing to do, you're crazy. I'm not gonna side with you on that. I don't agree with that to begin with. Then for anybody, men or women, then you want to say, oh well, then we should have abortions that are legal, and not only that, we should probably fund these for a lot of people through Planned Parenthood and subsidies from the government. Fuck no. I'm not paying for you and your whole phase. Fuck you. Please, stop being so entitled, liberal.
Okay, and then do I have a chance to examine your position yet?
Almost. There's one more thing that I bet Parker would want to run on you as it relates to Christianity and your pro-choice position.
I mean, you can run your thing on him. There's just one point I would want to bring up.
Okay, fantastic.
We'll leave it up to you. I've been asking things of you. You get to choose, Hayden.
Yeah, I've been waiting a while. Just a quick clarification. When I was trying to ask a question, it actually wasn't going to be about your position. It was just going to be about the course of the conversation going forward. So I wasn't actually interrupting to try to sort of ask a question that would help my view. I was just trying to clarify sort of the terms of the future of the conversation. So I did just want to clarify that. But now that I do have a chance to examine your view, what would you consider makes a human being, actually any being, value? What would you consider gives a being a right not to be murdered by another human being?
So I hold a conjunct to distribute moral value sufficient to grant the right to life. I hold the same conjunct as Parker, and that would be a conjunct between past, present, and future subjective experiences. If you'd like me to explain to you what a conjunct is, if you don't happen to know, please feel free to ask. However, I bet you do.
Yeah, and so one question I have under that conjunct, can you give me an example then of beings that would fit that?
Sure. Like a fetus at about 20 through 24 weeks, in accordance with the current medical consensus on when the ability to deploy any level of sentience emerges. it would be an example of an individual or an entity that fit that conjunct, or just like you and I. You.
Okay, so yeah, just a clarification then on that. Let me make sure I got your position here right. So your position would be that you value any life form that has a conjunction between past or present and future subjective experiences?
So typically this conjunction would be applied to grant the right to life in a special sense to humans, but that gets into like a lot of nonsense. So like for all intents and purposes, that'd be the position. It would entail ethical veganism. You might take it down that road. And that's just, I'd say, the easiest position to argue for all intents and purposes. But the water could get muddy.
All intensive purposes. All intents and purposes.
Like for instance, if you could hold like another clarification of you also have to be a human for some other reasons, but
yeah, just another
conjunct
contract
is generally true.
Okay, so just a question on that then. If you had to choose between saving 10 adult pigs
Does Parker do anything on these besides hold Dean's jock while Dean cries and bitches like a little kid?
or one newborn human being, which would you choose?
It'd be the
Newborn human being, absolutely.
For the reason that we already listed.
What's that reason? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah,
in the conjunct of human. They meet a particular
Okay.
threshold of
Doesn't-
rationality. So we also have the same.
Just 1 second there. Don't all of the adult pigs also have a conjunct between past or present and future subjective experiences?
Yeah, but they
however,
don't meet
in
the
this
second
evolved
conjunct of also
version,
being human.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I guess another line of reason that then might help me understand your position a little bit better. If I offered you guys, and I'm not going to give you guys this money, but just take it as hypotheticals for the sake of me sort of examining your position here. If I offered you $1 million plus a plastic water bottle that is empty, what would you offer to pay me for that?
Wait, say that one more time?
Yeah, if I offered you $1 million in addition to a plastic water bottle that is completely empty, how much would you offer to pay me for that?
Anything under $1 million?
Okay, so like roughly $1 million.
Under $1 million.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, so like
with the relevance of this
not
one is.
well, we'll get there. So like $999,999, you can make $1 profit.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously that's in like a theoretical sense. Like we wouldn't actually like be willing to do that in real terms because there's plenty of opportunity costs you have to take into account, liability, other types of.
Okay, but
preferences that
roughly
would be relative,
would
but-
$999,000 roughly be about what you'd pay, right?
I'd offer to pay you anything that would inevitably... How about this? We just set this principle.
Okay.
I'd offer to pay you anything that would inevitably allow me to profit.
Okay, let me maybe rephrase then.
Yeah, that's
What is-
theoretical, but like in reality, that wouldn't.
Okay, let me rephrase that in a way that might be more helpful. What is the value of $1 million plus an empty plastic water bottle, roughly?
$1 million and like 3 cents.
Okay, thank you. What is the value of a plastic water bottle and a crushed pop can?
Like, I don't know, 6 cents maybe?
Okay, and what is the value of $1 million plus a crushed pop can?
Like, once again, $1 million and 3
Okay,
cents.
gotcha. So the reason that I brought that up is because it seems to me that when you say a human who has a conjunction between past or present and future subjective experiences has value enough to not be murdered, but every single other non-human animal that has that same conjunction, we can go ahead and kill for food, or we can go ahead and kill to help the environment or something like that, then it seems to me that the part that's providing all of the value in the union between the being and the conjunction of past or present and future subjective experiences is the human part, isn't it?
No, it'd be both of them together.
Yeah, and
That's what a conjunct is.
yeah.
No, but my question is, when we talk about other non-human animals
if
that
it's
also
just
have the
human, I'll give you an
conjunction,
example. Can I give you an example? If
Sure,
there was a
go for
specific
it.
zygote, I wouldn't care about killing a zygote. You can kill 1 trillion zygotes and I wouldn't give a shit. If I slap a zygote under your view, I should go to prison, right?
And then, like, additionally, one other thing is, like, I'm pretty agnostic on ethical veganism. So, like, maybe it is wrong to...
That's funny. If I slap a psycho, I should go to prison. I'm not gonna lie, that was funny. That was good. I mean, obviously, again, that's a straw man, right? I think that's the name of the fallacy that he just used, but it's funny
Pill pig.
nonetheless.
Here's some of the only sons, but...
Yeah, but
I'm trying to understand Hayden's point. I'm actually gonna rewind and try to figure out what the fuck he's talking about here.
we can go ahead and kill for food, or we can go ahead and to not be murdered. But okay, gotcha. So the reason that I brought that up is because it seems to me that when you say a human who has a conjunction between past or present and future subjective experiences has value enough to not be murdered.
Or Hayden's point. I don't know what I just said, but yeah, I'm trying to understand this guy's point.
But every single other non-human animal that has that same conjunction, we can go ahead and kill for food, or we can go ahead and kill to help the environment or something like that. Then it seems to me that the part that's providing all of the value in the union between the being and the conjunction of past or present and future subjective experiences is the human part, isn't it?
no, it'd be both of them together.
Yeah, and
That's what a conjunct is.
yeah.
No, but my question is, when we talk about other non-human animals
if
that
it's
also
just
have the
human, I'll give you an
conjunction,
example. Can I give you an example? If
Sure,
there was a
go for
specific
it.
zygote, I wouldn't care about killing a zygote. You can kill a trillion zygotes and I wouldn't give a shit. If I slap a zygote under your view, I should go to prison, right?
And then, like, additionally, one other thing is, like, I'm pretty agnostic on ethical veganism. So, like, maybe it is wrong to kill pig or something along those lines, but...
Yeah, but like we would still say that like we would rather save one newborn baby over 10, right? Ethical. That's not an entailment
Yeah,
of
but
ethical veganism. All right, and we can have our separate discussions on like veganism and stuff like that, and what
And
that
then,
would
like,
entail. But having a difference in value between humans and non-humans isn't like an entailment of veganism.
And then another perspective on why, like, I might save like a newborn baby over like a billion, well, not a billion pigs, maybe a billion pigs, who knows? Is that I'd care sufficiently much more about the second condition of the conjunct, that being their future capabilities, but it's going to be entirely predicated on past or present.
well, just one question there. If it's about,
the
if it's,
predication of future abilities on past or present abilities, present that in a fetus, sorry, not like in a fetus at 20 through 24 weeks, so a newborn baby, are going to be considerably more valuable than a pig. However, you still hold that axiomatic truth, that being that you could only make future considerations predicated on what has existed prior or what currently does.
so let's try this then. So same scenario I mentioned earlier, where you can either save those 10 pigs or the one newborn human, but you know that one newborn human has some sort of birth defect where they're actually guaranteed to die at about 2 years old. So you can't really appeal to them having a future conscious experience that exceeds that.
I think Parker and Dean basically thwarted his last point, right, by explaining the conjunct further and saying that it only applies if it was a human. To me, it doesn't matter, human or not. I think that all life forms deserve the right to live. Obviously, again, if you're gonna, I've gone vegan for a little while, and it was hard, man. I got hurt really quickly in the gym. I was tired all the time. My head hurt. You have to eat meat. If you ask me, we're omnivores. You got to eat meat a little bit to get that B12 and the zinc and all that other shit. So you're gonna have to kill some animals. It's gonna have to happen, right? In my opinion. But should you just do it just cause? And should we try to find the most humane ways? Maybe end of life, and there's probably ways we can go about it better than what we do now. But in any case, that's a whole digression. But I think that I would have just said that I don't know, that argument fell flat regardless.
Of a pig, since consciousness is more of a spectrum than a dividing line. It's something that increases over time, increases with development. Which would you choose then, knowing that that newborn human being isn't going to develop past age 2? It'll die at age 2.
I don't see why this would be an entailment. We would still say the human. I'd still rather say the human.
And doesn't that expose though that what's providing all the value is the humanity and not the conjunction?
No. What's providing the value is those traits together. That's how a conjunction works.
Wow, fair enough. No, what he just said makes a lot of sense, because he's right. If it was such a conjunct and that was what was important, but this human's gonna die anyway at 2, then why does it matter, right? Because that past and present shit and future, there is no future, but you still value that human life. So the humanity is what's important to you. That makes sense. I like that argument by him. Again, I'm neutral in this on abortion, on pro-life, pro-choice, and whether or not, specifically, more granularly on whether or not a zygote or an embryo is a form of human life. I'm pretty agnostic on that, but I just thought that's a good point by him for sure, by Hayden.
No, but what I'm pointing out though is when I take those same
traits in conjunction, because I just explained to you, I wouldn't care if you killed an infinite level of human zygotes, right? They have that human, right, but they don't have the sentience. So you understand that you could say from both perspectives, right, that one's carrying the weight of the other one. Well, they're both carrying it together. That's how a conjunction works.
But the sentience is pretty clearly not what's mattering here, is it?
What I just explained specifically, it's sentience plus the fact that they're human, right?
And the human's doing all the work there.
No, it's not. I just explained.
It kind of is though, because you just we're talking about a human that doesn't have a future. It's terminal.
In the context of a human zygote, I don't care if you were to kill an infinite set of human zygotes.
I think I would like to raise a point to demonstrate like how much sentience matters, and I think I could relay this point to you in a way that you might be able to agree. So let's just assume that the entirety of the species of humanity remains the same. However, right, humans evolved in such a way to not deploy.
I hate the way Dean talks. Oh my god. I hate him. He's so fucking zesty, dude. Ugh.
Any sentience. We were meat bags on the floor. In this alternative world, who would you rather save? 10 of the meatbag non-sentient humans, or one cow?
So just one question here. If I assume that worldview, then Christianity would necessarily not be true. Do you recognize that, right?
Well, Christianity
You're,
is already.
you're assuming macroevolution, which would contradict the biblical account of Genesis.
Okay, so in other words,
Wait. You think evolution contradicts Genesis?
Believing that the Earth is millions of years old and that it wasn't created in 6 days is an obvious
old is the
contradiction. So you'll get different numbers depending on how you go through the chronological order of events in the Bible, but I would say less than 25,000 years is what you probably have to answer if you believe in a literal Genesis.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I think he loses me with the religious argumentation, though. You can't bring religion into this because not everybody in the country is Christian. Of course, it is a Christian nation, but not everybody. It's not a theocracy, and not everybody in the country is Christian. So you have to be able to convince people to use their free will to engage in votes, and participate in democracy in favor of your argument, and that's not going to cut it.
Wait. So
It's
you just like
45, by
you
the way.
deny science completely and totally just because your biblical view says so? That's like actually insane.
Hey, Parker,
25,000 years?
Is science based on the uniformity of nature?
What do you mean by uniform?
See, but this is like, the ridicule. I hate the ridicule and the entitlement from the left, honestly. Like, he's right. At the end of the day, his position, I agree with Parker on this. It's that, you can't really bring religion into this conversation. But you don't have to be fucking cackling at the guy, right? You're just a fucking pig, dude. Do better.
Uniformity of nature.
That nature will act in the future as it has in the past?
No. What we're saying is it's likely to, right? So
Oh,
we're not saying it's
hang
certain.
on.
What we're saying is it's very likely to.
When
Based
you
on the
say-
evidence within the context of science, we're saying it's
Models-
very likely.
And when you say it's likely to, what are you basing that on?
We're basing it on priors.
On priors? So if I ask you how you know gravity will act tomorrow?
It's on models.
Probability.
It's on models.
If I ask you, okay, so again, just give me a chance to ask a question. If I ask you, how do you know gravity will act tomorrow as it has in the past, what would your answer be?
Again, probability.
But that begs the question.
Well, how's that beg? What begs what question?
Because I didn't
Are you
ask.
saying that are you saying we require certainty in order to be able to establish true claims?
Again, I'm just going to repeat the question, and I'll point out how it's a begging the question
Can you answer the
fallacy.
question?
I'm trying to. When I say, how do you know gravity will act tomorrow as it has in the past? And then you say, well, it's likely to based on what's happened in the past. I'm not asking about what's happened in the past. I'm asking about what's going to happen in the future, aren't I?
It's probability.
And what are you basing that probability on?
That's what probability
What are you
is.
basing the probability?
It's not probability, right? Those are the laws of science. We know gravity exists. We know that massive objects have gravitational pull, and the Earth is a massive object. That's not probability at all. That's an axiom. That's a fact of the world we live in. So again, Hayden loses me here as well, but I respect his conduct. I think he's handling this in a very professional way.
On.
Based upon what's occurred.
So
Right?
basing
The
on
fact that
past.
it's occurred a repetitive level.
I think from the Democratic side here, from Parker, this is the wrong angle to take. You got to attack this by asserting the science of it.
Of times.
Am I asking about the
indicates a
past or the
greater
future?
probability. Hayden, can I explain to you how this can justify a greater level of probability?
Go for
if
it.
you can identify that something happens over and over and over again on a repetitive basis, does that increase the probability that that is the cause of the action?
Do you just also
Can I answer what Parker just...
This is also like a ridiculous tangent right now. They're talking about nothing, dude. This is always what happens in political debates when people are interested in winning the debate through tactics rather than focusing on the ideology. At the end of the day, we have now devolved. The conversation has devolved into some bullshit. And, it's just not important.
Can I answer what Parker just asked?
Let him answer it quick, yeah.
Okay.
And truth is, we don't know. The Earth could blow up tomorrow. So what? So what if they don't know? What does that have to do with the argument, right?
Yeah. So if I was to go buy 1,000 red houses, and you asked me what color is the next house going to be, and I say that it's red because that's what the houses have been in the past.
Yeah, that would be
do I
most
know?
likely, yeah.
Do I know? Really? Really?
You mean it's not certain, it's
Parker!
most likely.
Really?
No.
Or could it be any color?
See how he's not willing to concede because he wants to play the debate game. He doesn't want to converse about ideology. He wants to play the debate game and be the best at it. He doesn't care. So he's like, no, Parker, don't say something that's obviously true. Don't say that. Don't say it out loud, Parker. We're going to lose the debate, dude. Dude, your ideology sucks, Dean. You fucking suck as a person. Fuck you.
Wait, no, it could be any color, but what is most likely?
No, he's
Well, hang on. How do you know that it's most likely to be red?
Again, because of the fact that there are priors that indicate the likelihood of it being this way.
Bro, so if I flip a
There's
coin-
specific probability of it being
there's
the
a better
case.
example you could use. Hayden.
Yeah, if I
Flipping a coin.
roll a dice, for example, that's 10 sided, and it lands on 10.
All you're bringing up is the problem of induction. I'm not disputing that there is a problem, but that's not a problem in terms of the likelihood or whether or not we can say true things are the case, right? It is just simply describing that we're not certain. Okay,
Right.
Us not being certain is
Do
not
you
a
live like
critique
that?
of the worldview.
Do you live like that?
I live based on probability, right? What are you talking about?
On this
You don't have a
particular
basis
point,
for it.
on this particular point, one second. On this particular point, Hayden is right, mathematically speaking. However, he's obfuscating between two separate positions. So the positions that he's obfuscating between is like a prediction of like gravity existing tomorrow because it existed
Conflating.
prior,
I think obfuscating might work there, but conflating is a better word.
and like the prediction of what is going to be true of the next coin flip because of the coin flips prior. So like for instance, if you flip a coin like 100 times and the first 50 times you flip it, it lands heads, right? That doesn't increase the probability of it landing heads the next, right? And he's trying to use this point to obfuscate between this other point that because
That's because we have other knowledge
certain-
about other priors or other things that could be the case. If we didn't have that
Because-
knowledge, we wouldn't be able to make that assertion.
Okay, I didn't track that. My bad.
No. If you don't have knowledge about something, you're going to be able to make a different probabilistic assertion, right? Because evidence points towards a particular thing. That's reasonable for someone to conclude if it is the case that they have a certain set of information.
Hey, just one question.
So what he's saying that if you have 50 heads in a row, that's the only information you have. You think the coin's rigged, you're going to say it's heads again. It makes sense to say that, given the information you have. But when you see all the coin flips in history, or that coin being flipped ever, right? Chances are that it's closer to 50-50. So you'd actually say that it's due for tails, right? Obviously, it doesn't work that way either. But I think that's what was Parker's point. What Parker's point was. But then that just proves, I feel like if we're talking about the coin flip analogy or whatever, that just proves that you can't operate off of what you know in science. Because there could be way more out there, universally, right? Like you don't know that what you know is everything, right? That sample that you have, even if it's millions, there could be billions. Even if it's billions, there could be trillions out there. And what if your billions were just luck compared to the trillions, right? Relative to, I mean, yeah, obviously, you get what I'm saying, but it's not perfect. I mean, I'm not trying to refute what he's saying. He's right. Probabilities, for the most part, like if I walk outside every single day and I don't get hit by a meteor, I'm probably going to feel fine walking outside every day. You know, like I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, you know, most planets get hit by meteors eventually. Like, okay, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like either way.
I know we're kind of getting over towards religion. I do want to be respectful of the prompt you have up. If you guys do want to take it back to the Trump will be terrible for
Before we do it, I want to run one thing on you.
Go for it.
Do you think you should do as God does?
This was the first 21 minutes of a debate that ended up lasting about an hour and a half. The rest of the debate mainly focused on the problem of evil and free will. However, in this video, I want to concentrate specifically on our discussion about abortion and why I still believe Dean and Parker hold an inconsistent position. When I asked if they would save 10 adult pigs who have a conjunct of past or present and future subjective experiences over one newborn human who also has a conjunct of past or present and future subjective experiences, they said they'd save the newborn human. This clearly indicates that what they are really valuing is humanity and not consciousness. A 25-week-old human...
Fair enough. They're saying it's both, but fair enough. I think the example he should cite was the terminal child. Obviously, they still said that they would save the terminal child over the embryos. So you can't get them on that. It's not a gotcha in the way that he wants it to be. The pig thing is a gotcha, but, you know, because it emphasizes that they do value humanity. But even though that it's not a gotcha, I think that that's the more salient example, right? Would you, ideologically, would everybody else... would you save a 2-year-old that's terminal and he's gonna lose his life soon anyway over these embryos? I mean, seriously, right? So then that means the embryos do have value, right? They are kind of a life form, right? That argument opened my eyes. That's something that me as a neutral party was like, oh, he kind of snapped with that. You see what I'm saying? Whereas with the other shit, the pig shit, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, yeah, that's true too. But for me, it's like, I would pick the human life over the pigs, but the pig life is still valuable to me. I would rather like not have anything die. You know what I mean?
and fetus has significantly less consciousness than an adult pig, so their choice would only make sense if what they're valuing is the humanity of the newborn. Some of their supporters might argue that Dean and Parker don't value humanity itself since they're comfortable with someone intentionally destroying embryos in an IVF clinic without being charged with murder. However, this simply highlights the inconsistency in how they apply their values. I believe
If you destroy embryos in an IVF clinic, you are destroying somebody's means of making money. That's a business. An IVF clinic is a business. They paid somebody for those embryos. Somebody's paid to have the surrogacy. That is a crime. You should be going to jail for that, murder or not.
Dean and Parker would both agree
It's destruction of property at the very least.
with these two statements. Statement number one: any living human organism with a conjunct of past or present and future subjective experiences has moral value regardless of how long they will live naturally and what degree of consciousness they currently have or will have in the future. Implicit in this first statement is that the human being has at least reached the point of consciousness as described by the conjunct, which Dean and Parker would acknowledge occurs at about 24 weeks gestation. Statement number two: any living human organism with a conjunct of past or present and future subjective experiences has significantly more moral value than any non-human animal. In order to affirm both statements, there must be something that all humans with a conjunct of past or present and future subjective experiences have, either to a greater degree than non-human animals, or that non-human animals lack entirely. But Dean
Fair point. Yeah.
and Parker can't.
To me, right, as a Hindu, right. I'm Hindu, honestly, I am, but I'm not like fully. I'm kind of an agnostic believer at the end of the day. But in Hinduism, right, we believe that all life is valuable and sacred, but it takes millions of reincarnations and good karma, lots of good karma to achieve a human life, and that's your opportunity at enlightenment, not entitlement, excuse me, at enlightenment, okay? So human life is more valuable in that sense. And so from a religious lens, I kind of align on that, but I'm not going to bring religion into it. I just think that humans are more valuable because, for a myriad of reasons, really. I mean, you got to think about the complexity, the ability we have to contribute to the world, what we can do for other species at large. Like a human can contribute in a large way to other species, whereas other species mostly can't because of the intelligence and the opposable thumbs that they lack.
Argue that born humans surpass animals in consciousness, since human consciousness doesn't typically exceed that of adult pigs until around age 3. Moreover, some humans never reach a higher level of consciousness than adult pigs due to brain injuries, genetic conditions, or fatal birth defects occurring before age 2. They might attempt to argue that humans have specific biological structures for consciousness developing around 24 weeks, structures that animals lack. This resembles an argument Destiny uses for his pro-choice stance. However, this argument also fails. It raises the question of why these biological structures matter. If the reason is consciousness itself, it runs into the earlier problem. Some animals have higher consciousness levels than some humans will ever achieve. To clarify why the equipment for consciousness argument fails, consider this hypothetical conversation between two pro-choice individuals. Pro-choicer A says human forelimbs are valuable because they enable humans to throw baseballs faster than animals. Pro-choicer B correctly points out that some animals can throw baseballs faster than certain humans with injuries or birth defects. Thus, A's position implies chimpanzees could have more moral value than some 1-year-old humans. Similarly, valuing human biological structures solely for producing consciousness fails because some non-human animals with their own biological structures achieve greater consciousness than some 1-year-old humans ever will. Ultimately, for Dean and Parker to affirm the two statements I mentioned earlier, they would have to take the view that what...
I see where he's going with that, but that's really semantic. I mean, we're getting into like the really granular details and extending these hypotheticals, extrapolating these hypotheticals to an unrealistic degree. I think that we need to keep political discourse on the ideology. And this is way, we are out in left field. Like, who cares at the end of the day, right? This argumentation, this focus on argumentation is actually detrimental. Like, we don't need to go this far. We just need to talk about what actually exists in the real world and where people differ, and then vote on that.
Makes humans morally valuable is their humanity, which exists from fertilization and therefore would require a pro-life position. Some of you may still question if they would affirm both statements, but I think they implicitly acknowledge they would when I ask them this. So let's try this then. So same scenario I mentioned earlier where you can either save those 10 pigs or the one newborn human, but you know that one newborn human has some sort of birth defect where they're actually guaranteed to die at about 2 years old. So you can't really appeal to them having a future conscious experience that exceeds that of a pig, since consciousness is more of a spectrum than a dividing line. It's something that increases over time, increases with development. Which would you choose then, knowing that that newborn human being isn't going to develop past age 2? It'll die at age 2.
I don't see why this would be an entailment. We would still say the human. I'd still rather say the human.
Now that I think their position fails, I want to highlight some things I could have done better in the conversation I had with them about abortion. Number 1, I should have asked for clarification on how the conversation was going to proceed when I first joined the live. Number 2, when I was asked the hypothetical about being in a situation where I had to push a button that would kill either 10 human embryos, push a different button that would kill 1 newborn human being, or push no button and they all are killed, I should have asked them if I could reframe the question to the situation of a burning building where I can only save the 10 embryos.
This kid is freaking white as shit. I just wanted to point that out. Nah, like, but also, he's a beast. I fuck with this guy heavy. Like, dude, he's like, I like his demeanor. I like his shtick. You know what I mean? I like his. That's not the right word. Shtick's not the right word. But I like his He's got decorum. He's got intelligence. Right? He's very intellectual. He's got a good vocabulary. He knows how to speak. He's well spoken. He's clear, concise. I mean, he's yeah, man. He's good. He's a quick thinker, I think. I like him as a commentator. And in general, he seems to, have a certain professionalism and decorum. I'll use that word again about the way he goes about this. So I respect that.
Or the 1 newborn, in order to prevent the conversation from potentially raising an additional number of ethical questions, such as the doctrine of double effect, consequentialism, or just war theory. This would have allowed them to see that I value human embryos equally to newborn human beings, without potentially introducing additional ethical questions that could have derailed the conversation, although in this case, that didn't occur. I then should have asked them to consider how racism...
Oh, the conversation was not derailed? We were talking about coin flips. Like, conversation wasn't derailed, guys. I mean,
South in the 1800s would have answered a similar question, were they given the choice between saving 10 black humans and 1 white human. This would have exposed that Dean and Parker are prejudiced against a class of human beings, in this case, humans prior to 20 to 24 weeks of development, similar to how the racists of the early 1800s were prejudiced against another class of human beings. In that case, it was black people.
Fair enough. You're making the ageism argument. I don't know about that, but okay.
3. When asked about whether I would value humans who evolved to not have sentience...
At the end of the day, philosophically, racism cannot be said to be morally unjust. I think it's morally unjust, right? I think it's immoral to be racist. I think all human life is valuable, and I think that everybody has a right to, prosper economically and all that good stuff and do everything, right, and have all the rights. But if you actually strip it down on an argumentation level, you actually can't prove that racism is a bad thing. Like preferring to help your own race and that whole thing. I mean, you can't really say that that's bad on paper when you strip it down and justify it with a lot of reasoning. Kind of the same thing with animals if you think about it. Animals and like other races, other species, right?
Beyond that of a cow, I answered that it is not possible for that to be the case from within the Christian worldview, given it assumes macroevolution. I'd like to add that even professing Christians who believe in macroevolution would have to acknowledge that humans could not have evolved in a way as to never become sentient beyond that of a cow, given that Adam was the first human being and he was sentient beyond the level of a cow's sentience. Therefore, from within the Christian worldview, it is not possible...
No, we're going to move on. I'm not interested in the Christian worldview. I think Christianity is a great religion. There are a lot of great people that are Christian, but does not have a place in politics, in my opinion. Okay, guys, this is a good video. I like this debate, and I like this debate artist, Hayden. I think Parker's okay. I don't like Dean, obviously, clearly, as you guys can tell. But this is cool. Let me know what else to react to. But other than that, love y'all, man. Like, comment, subscribe. All right, peace. That was good. I'm about to add in a little political take at the end of this video. It's random, but I put random stuff at the end of my videos just for the troll factor. Benjamin Netanyahu recently, after I said there was a need for the right to be woke, he coincidentally made a video and in an interview talked about how there was like the woke right and he was losing his support in the United States. And I just think it's like ridiculous for him to be saying that, and basically the reason he cited, other nations' political influence and money being the reason why that his colonial effort is losing support in the United States. And he said that the way to combat it was to have their own influencers. And he basically talked about it as if he was deploying his own influencers and influence to combat the issue of them losing support for their violent and heinous actions in the Middle East, right? So I wanted to comment on that a little bit. I just think that's dumb, right? Like, you talk about deploying influencers and your resources, like, that's definitely trying to manipulate and game the system. You're pointing fingers and saying other people are gaming the system, and it's not at all the fault of, the actions that are taken over there. It's all because other people are trying to manipulate the media, so you need to do it back, right? So it's justification, and it's pre-justifying your immoral actions, right? As Kendrick Lamar said, you can't fake influence. So there's nothing you can do about the fact that people are starting to open their eyes to what's going on. You're never going to be able to, baby, directly, I'm telling you, you're never going to be able to buy your way into convincing everybody of something. There's no way to defend evil actions, and eventually the truth comes to light, and that's always the case. I also wanted to make one more comment, and this was with respect to the deep state. To the deep state, right? I have my notes here on the side, so I'm going to consult them as necessary. I got your box on the road, okay? I'll take the deal, but money's got to be attached, man. Look, I mean, that's as bluntly as I can put it. I got to get paid. I got to get some paper out of this because it's been some bullshit. And I would like to cite, in relation to that, I would like to cite the Book of Job. I'm not a Christian, man. I do believe in God in some form. I don't know. I believe in higher power. I don't know what form that may be in. I'm an agnostic believer, is what I say. But anyway, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the Bible because I found it interesting. I've read certain parts of it. And the Book of Job obviously is about a guy who his faith in God is tested, just like somebody's loyalty to a country might be tested. And obviously everything was taken away from him, but once it was established that his faith was there, and God was able to prove to Satan that and show him that he was wrong, and that Job was Job was righteous and really was a faithful believer regardless of the circumstance. That was everything was then restored and doubled. I think that's relevant. Obviously the analogy is pretty clear. If the situation that I'm referencing is known to somebody, then the analogy is there. There's no need to dive into it and nitpick and kind of spell it out, right? So, box on the road, received. Need some money though. That's the bottom line. But all right, yeah, man. I mean, obviously, just want to add there's nothing I can do if I don't get that, but I think it's fair. So I just wanted to put this out there. And, yeah, let's, we'll go ahead and table this. Guys, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, like I said, and put down in the comments. I actually just recently got my first subscriber request. Guy named Zay Lou requested a video, so, yeah, I mean, shout out him. Gave me some suggestions in the comments as well. Always welcome that. Let me know what I should do with the channel, what I should talk about. If there's any improvements that you guys see that I could make that could help me gain traction. Appreciate the few people that already believe in me here. I think that I'm going to make it big and blow up. I also believe in myself. I think that I have substance to bring to the table. And, I think that I'm a man of substance. So I feel I can contribute and bring perspective. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to be flashy, show off, and do a bunch of dumb shit for attention. I'm here to really bring substance. So let me know what to talk about. Love y'all, man. Good night. Peace.